Welcome back to part 2 of the solid axle Rodeo. So far we have the diff under the car and the arms mounted. So we've still got to do the Panhard steering box and the tie rod. So we're going into that now. Oh, and the suspension. But what I've been working on here is, that's my coilover mount. So I've got that mounted. That's just for the bottom. I've actually had the coilover in here, and this is sitting on bumps, well, as close to bumps. I just got to trim that. Yeah, so that's mounted. I just got to copy that on this side and do it all in here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip the body off, because as you can see, if I put a coilover mount here, it's going to hit all my compound turbo setup. So I'm going to take all that off. I'm already doing the whole compound setup because I've got different turbos, wastegates, everything to go on. And yeah, that's how the mounts sit in the engine bay. So that'll take up a lot of room over here. And then while the body's off, I can mount that to the chassis and then build my compound setup with what space I have left. So that's the body off the chassis. So now we can start just pulling apart all this compound setup just to give us room for the coil mount, the coil tower mount. Need to get rid of that steering box, put the patrol one in, and yeah, after the steering box in, we can do the Panhard mount and all that. You can see that bracket hitting the chassis now. So what I might do is actually trim it a bit lower. But it's also because the chassis is actually hitting on the diff and it's pushed it all that way as well. So pretty much sorted out once the Panhard rod's in, because that'll determine which way the diff's going. And yeah, also while the body's off, we're going to change the gearbox. So take the manual out, put the auto in, and do all that. So yep. So everything's off and I'm ready to start doing the coilover tower. So what I'm going to do is pretty much just take this one off. It's only on by 2 tacks, and copy it. So that way they're the same. I'm going to pull it off anyway because I've got to do the chassis bracing. So I've got some 3mm sheet for that. So do that. I'll weld these out. As you can see, they're not welded. So I'll weld these out fully before I put them on, but that'll be when the chassis brace is also on. And then once the tower's in there, we can start redoing our compound setup. So I've now got the GU steering box that I need to mount in here. So I've measured off my D-Max, which is a patrol chassis. So center of the diff to center of the steering box was 250. So that should be the center of the steering box. These don't line up with the patrol box. So what I'm actually going to do is, hopefully I've got a hole saw that's small enough to just go around the outside diameter to knock the weld off. And I want to reuse them because that's the bolt from the patrol box and they actually fit. So I'll reuse those. They'll just be in different spots. So we got the GU box on, and then whatever's left between here is where I'll run my Panhard mount. They'll run straight across to the diff. So that's probably where my steering box is going to go. So I'll be able to use 3 holes through the chassis and put these little spaces through, and then there's one above it. So the one that runs above it, I'll actually like box in with some 3mm. I'll show you that when we get to it. But steering shaft, I'm trying to get the angle so where that's going into the spline for the box, it's not like way on the piss and it's going to put this uni under stress all the time. So be like that, and just a little kick on it, so that'll made up good, but that'll have to get shortened. One thing I can't do for engineering is just cut and weld it. So what I'm thinking is maybe cut it there and actually spline this and then run an 80 series uni, which is what I run on the D-Max. So the 80 series uni fits straight on the patrol box, and if I spline this the same as this spline, it'll just go straight on. And another issue is going to be this coil tower. So I need to notch out. So I need to notch out through the tower so pretty much the box can come through and that steering shaft can come through the tower, and then I'll have to box in where I've cut that out, and I'll show you that later too. So yeah, we'll probably start drilling through the chassis and putting these in. So we get the box actually mounted to the chassis, and then when I do my 3mm brace over the chassis, I actually like integrate the bit where it comes up all as one piece. So yeah, let's get onto that. So that's our steering box all mounted. So I just still got to do that one with the spacer bit, but I've got the 3 in so far, and I've tack welded in the little spacers. And then what I want to do is, yeah, with the bracing, have the bracing come up, take that hole and then come back down, and then I'll do a little plate on the back as well. So now we'll put this on. Pretty much going to cut some clearance where that spline's going to run through this coil mount, really. So I'll just cut out a tiny bit for now. I'm not going to go cut heaps out, because when that comes down, that could come in on a different angle. So I'm just going to cut a straight bit out. If that comes on an angle, and then it's going to be patches on patches. So I'll do that until the body comes back down. But this will then get us set up for coilovers, bump stops, Panhard. And I need this here to do the compounds, because that now gives me my new clearance. So yeah. So we're just going for Panhard placement at the moment. So I'm hoping I can go something like that. If not, I can go something like that. Or I can shorten it and run the Panhard from in here, and I'll shorten that end so it's closer to the chassis. This is actually an 80 series Panhard. I did want to use a patrol one with the spherical bush at this end, just because they're better for flex, and it's not actually bush, they barely wear out. Went to buy one and they didn't have one. So they had this 80 series one, got it cheap, which was good. So I'll use this instead. But we might as well keep the Toyota theme using Toyota arms. So hopefully I can sit that there. The way the diff's strapped, that's about our ride height. So I should probably strap it at bump stop height and pretty much just do it for clearance, so see if we miss everything. But yeah, this Panhard was probably gonna be the hardest bit, because where we mount it as well, it's got to run parallel with this drag link. So if we pin this side, wherever that side goes, turns on, run parallel with this. Right, so we're at our bump stop height now, and going over the top will probably be the way we go. So I can trim out that bracket here, like scallop that out so this doesn't just rub on it. And yeah, we'll make that diff end mount, and then we'll do this chassis end. But that'll be pretty much how it's going to go. I've pretty much got it how I'm going to do it. So down at the diff end, we have one side of the bracket. It'll have a bracket on both sides to like encapsulate it. But for now, I've just got that there so I can still get angles and everything right. And then for the chassis end, I've cut these one plate, which will sit there. So once I put a hole through it, it'll bolt to that. I'll do 2 of these plates, so one for each side. And that's my chassis end for it. But I won't weld this on because I've got to put the 3mm brace around there first. Then I can put that mount on, and that's pretty much our Panhard rod done. So this 80 series one actually worked out pretty good. So that bump clears the radius arm like perfect. And then where it comes back down, where it dips, misses the chassis like perfect. So it's come together quite nice. Just when I put this mount on, just gotta make sure that angle and that angle for the Panhard run parallel, so I get no bump steer. So yeah. So I've got the Panhard chassis mount done on that side. So I've got the 1/2 done. I've got the 1/2 done at the diff. And this is our max down travel. So if I full lock, I've got heaps of clearance, and that's heaps of clearance, and I'll drop it on as bump stops. So that's bump, and we have clearance under here and there, and full lock to lock. There's heaps of clearance. So that's our Panhard mount done. I'll just make the opposite side so that like encapsulates the bush, and then that's it.
I'm Henry Tonkin, Chris Tyrrell.
That's our Panhard mount now. So it's all encapsulated, braced, looks like under there. And up at this end, so it's, yeah, just 2 mounts like that. And then when I do the chassis brace across here, so also come up for the steering box, and then I'll have a bit come down, which I'll fold down and hopefully weld along the corners and just pretty much integrate everything into the chassis brace. So that's what we'll do now, is the brace and put that on, and then we can pretty much weld all this front out. And then once the coil tower or the coilover tower goes in, I can fully weld that. And then pretty much what's left is shortening this. So I have to sort something out there, or like I said, respline that and then just run a uni. And some power steering lines, which I'll just do what I did when I made my own lines. I'll just pretty much do the same thing with just some screw-on hydraulic fittings. Perfect. So them holes are for the steering box, so yeah, just fill them with a weld, and then yeah. got the bracing welded on. I even managed to get that bit down. I just literally just hit it with a hammer and that come out good. So I'm going to put the steering box on now and we're going to finish off this mount, which is this spacer here. So we'll get that in and yeah, finish this off pretty much. Get this side all primed up. I can't put the coil tower on yet because of what we're doing with the steering shaft. So pretty much cut the other side brace, we'll weld that on. And then as for the SAS, that's probably about it for now, once all that's done. Because then we will move on to the compound and the auto swap, so yeah. So with this, I'm just gonna box it in with some 3mm, so I'll just follow that profile, fill it in. So that's our progress on the SAS so far. So pretty much everything's done except the hydraulic lines from the power steering pump to the box and mounting the steering shaft from the cab to the steering box. So other than that, we mounted everything else. So we have done our flipped arms, coilover mounts, our chassis brace. We've got the Panhard rod in, mounted the steering box, and yeah, everything still just needs welding out. Most of it's just tacked still. But other than that, and the tail shaft, which you could probably just re-drill. Just do that and then actually just re-drill. But I do have a spacer adapter left over from when I did my D-Max, so it actually bolts to this with this stud pattern, or bolt pattern, and then it picks up this bolt pattern. It's a 15mm spacer. I might just reuse that. That'll probably be a while till I get back to those and we finish this SAS conversion. Next, we'll probably start working on the compound turbos or the auto swap, just to give me a break from working on this and do something different. But you will see videos of this finished and the whole car running when it's done anyway. But yeah, we'll start on something else. So that'll be next episode.